We went to Serenade. It's a pop-up exhibition showcasing video games and experimental interactive works, as well as some micro-talks by developers. It's located in Redfern, Sydney, Australia, and hasn't been on for a few years at least now. So now that it's back, we thought we'd check it out and see what's there.
Probably expand it a little bit. Early September, and then get cracking with it. And I was also in a very unofficial capacity at South by Southwest via a concrete slab. And that was how I met the Serenade guys. So like, we have this concrete slab, and so they put on the thing like, you can put your game on this slab if you want. And so I just like, that was like a day off, so I just went there. Now this time, they've repaid the favor by replacing the slab with a piano.
In a piano, yeah. It's quite a unique setup, yeah.
We can smear it on an enemy, we can grind it into a paste, and they all have effects on the item that you use. So for example, with that first item, if you like eat it straight up, then you get the poison, but you also get the healing. Or you can smear it on the enemy, and they'll get healed, but they'll also be poisoned.
What made you think of this? Like, is it? I know you said Daggerfall was kind of one of the inspirations. Was it sort of consciously kind of thinking, like, kind of, I guess, I don't know, we could say vintage. I don't know, like some of it.
Yes, yeah, no, 100%. The main benchmark for the look is like mid 90s, like DOS games.
Okay, yeah.
Like again, like Daggerfall was the big one. Yeah. Arena, Ultimate Underworld.
Yeah, it reminds me of both of those.
Yeah.
It's cool.
But also some inspiration from there's a really good Sega Saturn game called Virtuous, which I really, really love.
Yeah, optimum experience. Really, there'll be a million shooters out there, and then we were the only guys with a gun in Sydney. And we're like, whoa.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's fun. It's an interesting little situation. We do have very Australian Max Payne.
So how far are you into this? Like,
We are almost exactly 1 year into development of this bad boy. We've got about 2 more to go.
I think that's good.
I did not realize there was no floor under the lamp.
You carked it, yeah, of course. Yeah.
We'll see.
Very Australian.
We can't win them all.
Yeah.
Oh, you should see the difference in menu. We get more Australian.
Yeah.
We lean into it pretty hard. But yeah, no, we've sort of been working on it. We've been doing all the events, doing this. We did South by Southwest.
Oh yes, right.
All the bits and pieces, and we're sort of getting there. But yeah, no, it's sort of one of those things where we're just sort of finishing up on our main mechanics now before we start adding the rest of the content. We're pretty close to what we want for like a full Steam demo or whatever you want.
Yeah. So what's the timeline with that? Like, is it within 6 months or a bit further on, or?
We're talking to some publishers right now, so that becomes one of their questions. If we have it our way, we have one out in about 6 months, and then we can sort of just leave it there, and hopefully that's become the other problem, is now we need people to lay eyes on the project.
Yes.
We can't sort of just build it in secret and hope that when we drop it, everyone will all of a sudden go, oh, of course. You know? You dumped the gun?
Oh, he didn't. He just...
There we go.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you want to show them the hardest difficulty?
No.
It's very Australian. Come on. Yeah. That's why we get the little corner here, because there are children in this room. Like, please don't show the children the word c***. Like, okay. I think it adds to the atmosphere. The little gamer corner.
We've come a long way though from like maybe the curtain or something.
Oh yeah. Kurt with his beautiful piano and wearing like the gamer kit. I mean, to be fair, Kurt has a very lovely and elegant game where like, you want to shoot him in the balls? Hell yeah, you do.
The only thing missing is maybe a beanbag or something.
Yeah, I feel like a beanbag would be nice.
Yeah, a mini fridge.
One big bowl of Doritos for everyone to share. Yeah, we are the gamer's game at this point because there's a lot of really beautiful
games.
Yeah, we have a lot of beautiful games coming out of
Execute button again?
E, got it. Yeah. I don't have any sweaty games. Where is he? If you press F, you'll... There he is. Yeah. Chunky. Did that like highlight? Oh, here we go.
Okay, they're behind me.
So the slow-mo uses up a meter and stuff? Or?
Yeah, so if you look underneath the health, there's a second bar there, and that's your slow-mo, and there's also alt. We have a dive. Drew, can you do a dive for me, please? The alt button.
I'm going to dive forward something.
There we go.
There we go, yeah.
Oh, you can donk your head. There you go, execute someone. There we go.
Oh, wait.
I need help.
So we have a system where every 3 kills you get an execute. It's a nice little cinematic kill. It rebrings the health in this game is based on how many kills you get. But if you execute, you set your combo meter back to 0, so you stop regenerating health, and you get all your health back to full. It's a nice little breather. It's sort of a part of the flow of combat is very fight a whole bunch of guys, execute someone, get back to full health, steal their gun. That's the other thing, is this is kind of like Hotline Miami. Those guys dropping the gun a lot. And the reason is once you run out of bullets, we do not automatically drop the gun, we do not reload. So you just sort of have to drop the gun, pick up another thing, and keep running there.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, I've got a gun now.
So is there a bit of speech in the game and stuff? Or?
Oh yeah, this is a very Max Payne display. We've got this little arcade mode, which we've found goes a lot better at showcases, just because then you can be like, oh, the game. But we have the main focus of this game is like a full narrative-based sort of experience, very much akin to Max Payne. We got full cutscenes coming in, we got story events, we got big levels we can jump through. It's a whole event. Yeah.
Couches. I don't think it has much to do with cows.
Do you need the floor?
Yes. They look like frogs.
Oh, this is frog game. Jump to the last frog game.
Too late. Oh, come on.
I get it, I'm getting it. Are you the frog? Yeah, I'm ready frog.
But I had to have that conversation with myself and the other people making the game with me. These things may seem stupid, but it's what we think makes it art, in its own weird way. That being said, game development has been democratized to a point that we've never seen. We have free engines, free tutorials, free resources. It's not all an even playing ground, of course, but it's way better than what it ever has been. With the broadening of artists, there is also a broadening of art enjoyers. In the olden days, your best bet of finding an audience was hoping the church paid you to paint a weirdly buff Jesus on top of a church ceiling. Now you become a known entity by drawing really buff wolves, ripping their shirts off. It's similar, but it's different. The internet is full of freaks, but that's good. You can find your freaks. I talked about the 2 truths. Well, now the binary of is it good or not doesn't seem to matter as much. There is an audience somewhere for you. Your art might be niche, but 1% of all people who have the internet is still a lot of people. You can actually have your cake and eat it too. You don't necessarily have to worry about Screen Australia or publishers like people had to 10 or even 20 years ago. You can do it all yourself. A Steam page is $100 and each page is free. You can find some like-minded weirdos like you who may be even willing to part with their hard-earned doubloons for your art. It's not easy, but it's as good as it ever has been. It's not done yet. We can afford to be niche. We don't have to be broadly appealing. A game for everyone is a game for no one. Make your art, make it weird, make it for you. Others will follow. Be cringe, be free. Thanks, Luke.
The movie is broadly considered to be the first proper dream ballet. There were dream ballets before that, but this is the first one that's like integrated within the full picture. It is 18 minutes long, and it slaps. I would recommend you watch it. You can watch it for free on YouTube. You don't have to watch the whole, stop laughing at me, I'm serious. You don't have to watch the whole of Oklahoma. Oh yeah, see it? Was it just like you thought? You don't have to watch all of Oklahoma to just watch the Dream Ballet. It is genuinely from the bottom of my heart, one of the most beautiful pieces of cinema. Yeah, it's 18 minutes long. I'd recommend you watch it. It tells a story about fear and sexual curiosity and society. There are no words and there's no singing, so I'd recommend you watch it. Dream ballets became really popular in the golden age of musical theatre, so the 40s through to the 60s. There was a lot of other stuff going on in the 40s through to the 60s. If we can move to the next slide, hopefully. Yeah, so there was some stuff going on. So war, the rise of Freudian psychology, surrealism, and like broadly, just like more of a cultural interest in psychoanalysis. So this probably explains why the dream ballet and like the exploration of our inner lives and trying to interpret what dreams could mean and assign meaning to things, why that landed so well with people at the time who were going through like this kind of thing. I feel that we are currently in an era of obsession with similar things. So like the pandemic, war, as well as like the resultant global mental health crises. You said I could talk about whatever I want. Places, I think, significance on how we explore our inner lives through art, or like through content. If you move to the next slide. So, they said I could talk about whatever I want. In pop culture, I think we love interpretation and reinterpretation. The ripple of acknowledgement. It's beautiful. Memification, multiverses, recontextualizing and reimagining things. So I think that because of this, because of where we are as a society right now, where we are culturally, that dream ballets shouldn't be left as relics of the golden age of musical theatre. Like recently in film, we've seen them kind of come back a little bit with La La Land and Maestro. There was one in Mary Poppins. Who saw Mary Poppins Returns? More people than Maestro, that's crazy. It wasn't good. They're great movies except for Mary Poppins Returns, but they are all very nostalgic and they're sort of trying to harken back, like recreate the artistry of the golden age of musical theatre. I think that dream ballets could be very powerful storytelling tools in a modern sense with modern audiences. And I think it would be good for us as audiences as well to be freed of this like requirement for literal interpretation of art. If you can move to the next slide. There's been a lot of backlash recently about the film Poor Things. You said I can talk about whatever I want. It's like depicting a highly surrealistic, like fantastical world. And I've seen criticism of it that it's like, you know, messed up because she's a child. She has like the brain of a child, but she's in a woman's body and she's like having lots of womanly experiences. Didn't know there would be kids here when I was talking about this, so I'm trying to say it in a nice way. Anyway, to that I say, it's not a biopic. These things didn't actually happen, and they couldn't happen ever. So calm down. Just like allow yourself to have the next thought in that sequence of thoughts. This is relevant to the talk because dance as an art form defies literal interpretation. There is no literal meaning of like doing a pirouette. There's no factual definition of what that means. So I think that re-emphasizing the idea that not everything you see in art needs a literal interpretation could be good for humanity. Anyway, next slide. This one's serious. It's not a new idea that games and theatre are similar. So Brenda Laurel wrote this, Computers as Theatre, literally before I was born. People have been talking about this for a long time. They're similar mediums. They both require a type of collaboration between the art and the people consuming the art, sometimes more passive, sometimes more direct. There's an expectation and there's a need from both sides. And they're both mediums that leverage flow state to create immersion. In particular, I also think that dream ballets are an interesting way to explore the concept of liminality and liminal space, which is something game developers just don't shut up about. We're always talking about, like, oh, it's a liminal experience. This is also a lens that's been applied to understand the dream ballet. So Victor Turner's concept of liminality represents like a transformational in-between state. And to enormously oversimplify this train of thought, I'll say that the combination of the in-between state between being asleep and being awake is a dream, and the emotional transformational power of dance makes for an excellent means by which to explore liminal space. So I think it's something that we should consider as game developers. The next slide. I feel strongly that we should see more dream ballets in games than we do. I think games are a great medium for a dream ballet to be reimagined and transformed into something even more fantastical and bizarre and immersive than what can be achieved in film. So, in summary, consider including a dream ballet in your game. Consider even just as an exercise how you could advance your characters wordlessly through movement and music. Free yourself from the literal world and shut the hell up and dance.
So I'll try and read this from my point of view as Mark, but not Mark, as me. So here I go. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm not a mannequin. I co-founded an indie game development studio that is true earlier last year called Pasture Studio. We're a small studio consisting of 4 members, Annika Lee, me, our concept artist and project coordinator, that's a bold assumption, Gurukpal Mahal, can't see him anyway. He's our technical artist. He's really good at it. If you need shaders, let him know. He is a programmer as well. We've got Izzy White, our 2D/3D artist and community manager somewhere. And myself, air quotes, a programmer. We decided early on that we also wanted to be more than a studio and settled on adding Network Collective to our title, with the name of building the game development scene within Sydney, forming a larger community through events such as game jams, hangouts and showcases. We found it emotionally fulfilling to find and make new friends over the past year, and we really want to reach out to more of the community to encourage you guys to do the same. So we're here to give you some tips and resources, way less cool and insightful than dream ballets and being less cringe, but hopefully you guys can find something out of this. But yeah, earlier this year we held a game jam called Pixel Jam, and it was our first ever event ran and held by us, aimed as a way for uni students and industry professionals to connect. Annika, me, came up with the idea one night after really enjoying the free 196s at South by Southwest, and promised us it was doable to organise in a 2-month time span if we committed to the bid. It was chaotic, but we loved the experience. We took some time to make a general outline of what we wanted from the event, for example, who it was targeted at and why, and a goal of the event, which was for people to meet, network, and work together on a project in a more casual setting. Our event planning turned into a bit of a blur on the home stretch, but Noble Steed released an amazing guide on how to hold your own game jam around the same time as ours was being held, which we wished we had a little earlier because it's an amazing resource, and we'll touch on them soon. We implore more people to hold events like this on any scale achievable to you personally, whether it be a game jam over a weekend for yourself, some friends, or something on a larger scale. Inviting the community to come together and participating in well-known online jams such as Global Game Jam or Ludum Dare, and providing a physical space for them if you're up for it. Host your own event. Get some people together, plan some dates, make sure you find a venue early and promote it. We have a huge love for these jams. You make friends, you gain skills, and you make more content to show off your amazing gaming muscles. Game jam games are also an amazing starting point for larger projects for you to build on top of in the future. We suggest that one day you sit down and just have a look at the Itch Jam page. You know, I'm assuming most of you know what Itch is. They have a whole section purely just dedicated to game jams, and if you have enough people sign up, you get a fancy little colour. It's real fun. But you can basically see every concurrent game jam in a certain time period. So if you've only got like a weekend free or a day free or a couple hours free, there's a really solid chance that there's going to be a game jam on Itch for you to participate in without you having to organise it yourself. More and more events have been popping back up in Sydney in recent years. There's a really good mix of social meetups, presentations and game jam events with Beer and Pixels, Noble Steeds Work in Progress Night and Powerhouse Late Night, Waypoint and of course Serenade, just to name a few. Attend these events as much as you can, either for the social aspect or to show off your projects and get feedback and support. These events are highly valuable, not just for a one-off feedback or social perspective, but they provide a place to meet and form connections with people from within the industry. We've met a lot of the people we know in this room from Beer and Pixels. We know when you're at these events, I recommend networking at every chance you get, but not in an attempt to get a job or promote your game, but instead speak to the person as if they were an old friend you haven't seen in some time. See what they're up to, update them on what you're working on, tell them what skills you have and what you've learned, and most importantly, speak to them in a way that facilitates conversation between two people, not an advertisement for one. Gain knowledge from them so you can apply it better to yourself in your game development journey. Take an interest in people's games, not from a developer's perspective, but as a player. Join their communities, participate in events they hold. Play their game and share feedback about it. Support other developers, big or small, in any way you can, from anything as small as liking their social media posts, to streaming their game, modding their game, or just being active in their community. I'd love to see everyone here attend more events, host your own, big or small. Foster the games community we have here in Sydney. Bracket, Screen New South Wales funding for games might even be a thing one day, and bracket. Myself and my team all have big hopes for you all and others within the game dev community. We're all so excited to see what wonderful connections, games and events you will all come to build on your journeys. Massive thank you to Serenade for hosting this amazing event and bringing us all together. I'm really glad it's back. Yeah, that's it.
This is Have You Eaten Yet? It is our second-ish release. It's as you noticed from that little intro, there's a lot of stuff we have going on and it's hard to keep track of it sometimes. But yeah, we are Caps Collective, which is basically an indie development collective that spawned out of UTS a few years ago. I know there's a few UTS people in the crowd tonight. Yeah, I was hoping for another woo there. That's fine, you know. And actually, this game wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the academics at UTS, because they were actually the ones who put us in contact with 4A Digital in the first place. It's basically that a lot of games are about big ideas. A lot of games try to explore very hefty topics and have a lot going on. And when you're making a game and when you're starting out, it's sometimes best and it's most pragmatic to focus on making games that are just about little things. And for us, these little things was, dumplings, dumpling restaurant, and the people who work at and eat at that restaurant. Could we go to the next slide? This is our team. So 4A was a really interesting experience for us because it was basically an opportunity for us to collaborate with a bunch of creatives from different fields that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to. So Harvey was kind of one of the central sort of leading the idea of this game, and generally in the past has never worked on games before, is actually a slice of life writer. So they write a lot of short stories and very naturalistic dialogue and very sort of conversational and sort of simple things about mundane aspects of life. And we sort of met up with 4A Digital as Caps Collective, so Ollie and myself. And we were basically told, hey, we want to make a game that explores this style of writing. We want to make a game that tries to make mechanics out of the various sort of, writing style that Harvey brings to the table. And yeah, let's have an experiment with how we want to do that. And where we landed on was dumplings. One other name that I want to shout out here was Angus Doolan. Angus was the pixel artist on this who had also worked on the game Unpacking, and this to me was the biggest win of getting to work with 4A Digital and getting to work with his whole team, is that we got to work with artists and collaborators that I don't well above, at least in my humble opinion, our pay grade. We got to work on full-on great pixel art quality stuff that you'll see in some of the later slides, and if you want you can check out the demo over in that corner over there. But yeah, we got to get unpacking level pixel art for this really small thing, and the way we achieved that was just by keeping the game really, really, really small. We have one core interaction in the game, which is making dumplings, and we have a secondary core interaction in the game, which is responding to dialogue choices while you're making dumplings, trying not to get in the way of the fact that you're making dumplings. So if you move to the next slide now, I want to talk about one of our biggest influences for this game, which was Oxenfree. So one thing we try to do is that Harvey's writing is very naturalistic, it's very conversational, and the game that sprung out to us was, okay, Oxenfree, what does that do with its dialogue systems that's interesting? Conversations earlier than you probably are expecting to, or potentially step on someone's toes because you want to say something ahead of time. And for us, if you go to next slide, there we go. we sort of put a flip on this because we wanted the passive observer view of that. We wanted the idea that the central idea of this game is about being distracted, right? Like while you're at work, you've got a bunch of conversations going on, you get distracted at the end of the evening, you've got like 3 separate tables with a bunch of different conversations going on, and part of the game is actually there's no physical mechanic that means that the players can only focus on one conversation at a time. All we do is we just put them slightly to the edges of the screen that the person is constantly like tilting their head and looking at the party. The effect that I was really trying to recreate is if anybody else has ever been at a house party and they're in like a conversation and then you hear another cooler conversation like a little bit away and you're like, oh, I wonder what's going on there. Let me listen in on that real quick, you know. That's basically what we were trying to capture with this, and it's funny because when you see it, you know, some people originally say like, oh, is this wrong? Because like I can't read everything. Like, oh yeah, that's the point. So that was a really fun thing to explore, and we can move to our next slide to definitely talk about one of the biggest inspirations. If I talk about getting distracted at work, this should probably be the top of everybody's list, which is a game called What Remains of Edith Finch. There is a particular segment of this game, I think Polygon has a video or someone, I forget who did a video, but it's all about this fish factory sequence and getting distracted and letting your thoughts wander off. And to me, that was one of those games where when I played it, I'm like, I want to make that. I want to, in whatever form works for whatever I'm making, I want to make something that like captures that same feeling. And for us, the way we did it was with rowdy customers. Next slide, please. So the thing that we try to do is like, if you've got text on screen, like as you'll notice, the text doesn't neatly sit outside of the play space. It actually sits right where you're working. And when you're making dialogue choices, they will literally get in the way of you doing your job. So in the instance where you have like a rowdy customer asking for, you know, where their orders are, and that's slowing you down, that's kind of the mentality and the headspace that I wanted to get into. And yeah, I think this was a first attempt, kind of like a small, very microcosm of these dialogue systems and this sort of like design around the way we build dialogue in a system that only games can provide, right? Only games can give you that degree of control and freedom and interactivity with dialogue. And I am always a little bit disappointed whenever I see dialogue in a game that is simply just read, hit continue, hit continue, hit continue. I think there's a lot more that you can do with it. So, you know, one takeaway for the crowd here is like play around with your dialogue a little bit more and yeah, see how that all goes. Yeah, all right, I'm done. Thank you.
And here's me using modern VR for the first time and having somewhat of a spiritual awakening at how much better it is than the last time I used VR. It's so realistic.
Wait, I'm going to have 2 records. I'm like John Woo now.
Right, John Woo, yeah?
I must look really silly right now, but in here, I'm awesome. There's a bird just flew over there, and there's a concrete roof there. It's very brutalist architecture. Okay, I've discovered the holodeck. Yeah. I need this. Okay, that's VR. I've discovered modern VR. Oh, woo. Okay, back to reality.